Hi everybody, this is Miss Wasick. Today I'm going to show you how to make a pop can trinket box. In front of you I have all of our tools that we will need for this laid out. You may not need to use all of them, but I like to have more than I need just to be safe rather than sorry. Now, as you can see on the left here, I have a tall soda can. I'm using a Peace Tea can. You can use an Arizona can. Anything tall will work. If you only have short pop cans, then you can just modify the dimensions a little bit and make this a slightly smaller box. I then also have a pencil. I have a wooden skewer. I have a ballpoint pen. Ballpoint pen works the best. I have a Sharpie, some sharp scissors, a box cutter, a straight edge or a ruler with centimeter markings on it. If you have inches, you're going to need to convert. I have a sandpaper pad and some cute duct tape. Okay. So, the first step is turning your pop can into a flat sheet of tin or aluminum. So, what you can see is I have already Sharpied a line for me to follow along the top edge, and then I'm just going to use this bottom edge here as a guide. Now, if this is too hard for you to cut, what you might want to do is find your parents and get them to do these initial cuts for you. Please be careful. Tin can be very, very sharp. You can use a pair of gardening gloves or work gloves to protect your fingers if you need to. So I am just going to go ahead and start cutting these with a sharp pair of scissors. Okay, so first step that you're going to need to do is just poke a hole in there. Keep your fingers out of the way so you don't accidentally poke yourself. And there we go. Okay. So, I have my pop can with my scissors stuck inside of it, and I am just going to slowly cut around my edges. It doesn't need to be tidy, it just needs to get the top off. Now, I washed my can, you can see the water coming out, no big deal. All right, so here's the top of my pop can. I'm gonna put that aside, I don't need it, be careful. And as you can see, there are some sharp, jagged edges right here. Don't worry about that right now, we're gonna fix it in a little bit. Now, I am going to pick where I'd like to cut my seam. So I'm gonna cut down through the label here because I don't want that design anyways. So I'm going to cut just straight down. This should be a little bit easier than cutting the top off and should give you a fairly straight line. Okay, now, once you're at your bottom ridge here, you're gonna turn your pop can to the side. I kind of have to squish it in there. And then I am just going to do the same thing as I did to the top and carefully cut all around my bottom ridge. Okay, now, what you're going to have is I'm gonna have to voice over. What you're going to see here is you're gonna have a relatively flat rectangular piece of tin can. Now, this does not work that well. We've still got some really sharp, jagged edges. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna turn this, and I am just going to, with taking as little material off as possible, take my scissors and just clean up that edge here. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight. You just don't want all those jagged bits. So I'm gonna get rid of that, put that aside. For now, I'm gonna flip this around right here. Again, I'm gonna go up my jagged edge here. Okay, perfect. Now I've got a nice rectangular piece. Okay, now this next bit is optional, but if you would like to emboss and not use the design that comes with a pop can, so like this Peace Tea one, I'm gonna just leave this because I like the color. This is where your sandpaper is going to come in handy. So I have a sandpaper. What you can do is you're just going to sand the design off of it, which I can show you on one of my scraps. So let's grab our scrap piece here, grab my sandpaper, and then Now, as we can see, that's going to start leaving a nice shiny brushed look to our can. Now, if you would like to emboss, you're going to do this step to your whole sheet of can first. If you don't, you can skip this step. Doesn't matter. It's all good. All right, so your next step here is going to be lay your can flat, and this is where your duct tape is going to come in handy. So I've already pre-ripped 2 strips of duct tape. I'm going to grab those, and then I'm just going to lay them just right along the edge here. My can's a little bit wet. You might want to dry off your can first. Alrighty, sorry, had to cut because I needed to dry off my tin can. Dry that off before you start taping it down. And what you're going to need now is your ballpoint pen and your straight edge or your ruler. Now remember, I'm going to be measuring in centimeters. I will provide a document that has all the measurements in both inches and centimeters. It just might be slightly different because it doesn't very cleanly convert over. Okay, so what we're gonna do first is I'm just gonna start by making a line sort of in the center. If you wanna be super particular, what you can do is you can measure down the side. My pop can here is 16 centimeters long. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna move my pencil up and make a little mark at 8 centimeters, right? Okay, I will use a Sharpie for marking. So at 8 centimeters, so that's approximately the center on our edge here. And then I'm just gonna take my ruler. You can eyeball it right now, it doesn't need to be exact. And I am going to measure down 2.5 centimeters. So there's 1, 2, and then a half. I'm gonna make a little mark, and then same thing. I'm gonna line that up with my 2.5. Make a little mark. Now this will give us a 5 centimeter length in total. Okay, so what I am also going to do is on this side here, again, I'm going to measure that 16 inches, mark my center. So remember that's at 8 centimeters there. And then I'm going to count down 2.5 centimeters. 1, 2.5, and then I'm going to count up 1, 2.5. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my straight edge and then just line it up with both my bottom marks here. And I'm just going to switch back to my pen because what we're going to do is we're going to start to score our box. Now, you do not want to push so hard that you break through. Tin tears quite easily. So I'm going to grab that ballpoint pen here and I am just going to scribe along. So we're using this just like the scribe that we did in the metal shop. So I'm going to scribe all the way along and I'm going to go back and forth a couple of times. Now, just for your clarity, I'm going to go over that again with a Sharpie marker, which is dying. That's okay. And then I'm going to move my ruler up to my top line here. And again, grab that ballpoint pen that we're using as a scribe. And I'm just going to scribe back, forth a couple times to make a ridge. So now if you take your finger, you should feel that there's a little bit of a ridge here. Perfect. Now, I want to find my center along this long edge now. So I'm going to take my straight edge again, line it up, and we are at about 20.5. I'm going to change that to about 20 because it makes it easier for you. So just make it same on either edge. What's half of 20? That's 10 centimeters here. So I'm going to make a little mark with my Sharpie. Same thing. We're going to do... Now we're going to make this as even as we possibly can. It may not be perfect, but that's okay. Okay, so we've got that center mark here. We're going to have to do a little bit of playing. I'm going to grab, sorry, there's a cat here. I'm going to grab my Sharpie, and I'm going to measure out, you guessed it, 1, 2.5 centimeters. And then again, on here, I'm going to do my 2.5. Perfect. And because we're at home, a lot of you guys don't have a square. So again, eyeballing it. I'm gonna grab that ruler there. I'm gonna try and use the little lines on here, the notches, to keep that as square as possible. Line it up on the bottom. And we're gonna grab that ballpoint pen here again. And just scribe all the way to the edge. A couple times. And then I'm gonna move over here. Same thing. Use the little notches on your rulers to try and square it up with our previous horizontal lines. And we're gonna put one more vertical line in just a couple of times. And now you should have a nice square. So you have the square here, and then you've got a whole bunch of guidelines on the outside, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so your next step here is we need to make our sides. So the sides of our box are going to also be 2.5 centimeters. So in each one of these sections here that is coming up, we are going to measure out 2.5 centimeters and then make a line that goes all the way to the edge again because we're using these as guidelines. So I'm gonna line up with this left side of our center box. I'm gonna grab my ballpoint pen again, and I'm going to give us a mark at 1, 2.5. And now I'm gonna make 2 marks. The reason for this is because we do not have our square. So if I have 2 marks, I am more likely to get a straight line when I take my ruler, line it up with both of those marks here, which should give us a parallel line to our edge. Grab my ballpoint pen again, and you are going to scribe once and twice. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to go 2.5 centimeters, make a mark, 2.5 centimeters, make a mark, take our straight edge, line that up, and then we're going to go 1 and 2 again. And I'm just going to go through the next little bit. You're going to do the exact same thing on the top of our box and the bottom of our box. Okay, so what you will have now is you're gonna have your center box, you're gonna have 4 little squares in the corner here, and then you're gonna have your little rectangles here on the side, and these are gonna be on the side, your edges of your box. Okay, now we need to do a couple more marking before we get to cutting. So what we're gonna do is extend on either side of the edge here. You're gonna grab your ruler again, and we are going to measure 1 centimeter. So we're gonna line up on that edge. We're gonna make 1 mark. And again, we're gonna do 2 marks. Line that ruler up. Now, we do not need to extend all the way to the edge here. We can just draw between here and here. Same thing on this side. That's okay, I extended up a little bit too far, but that's okay. So then what you are going to do now is, again, bottom, top. Okay, so I just saved you some time there, and I finished up the top and bottom tabs. These are what we are going to fold over. Now, what you may want to do is on this inner edge here, grab your ruler and just bump it in just a little bit and give yourself another score line, because this tin can, it does tear quite easily if you try and make a super, super sharp edge. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna move that ruler in just a touch. Give me another edge. Make sure you have your can taped down a little bit better than I do. And again, I'm gonna do another small ridge, and I'm doing this on the tab side, not my edge side, because I don't want to take any height away from my box. And there we go. We've got a little bit of a double line. You might not be able to see that super well. You don't have to do it, but it just helps Okay, now if my Sharpie is not dyed, what I'm going to do is I'm going to quickly trace over where we're going to cut. So we are going to cut all the way around this edge here, all the way around these corner boxes. Now, if you don't like Sharpie on the inside of your box or pen on the inside of the box, no big deal. You can use a little bit of acetone or nail polish remover, or if you have rubbing alcohol will also take off the marker, no problem. And I'm just going to trace all the way around my box. Oh, look, my Sharpie's working again. Okay, so I'm just gonna go back around so you can see that a little bit better. Okay, so all along this outer edge, we are going to start to cut. So I'm gonna quickly untape this and I will be right back. All right, so when you untape your can, it will wanna start to roll back up into its shape. That's okay. You're just going to grab your scissors here and carefully cut all the way around. And I am just going to start on one of my lines. You can do this however you want. You just don't want to cut into the body of the box, only those solid lines that I have Sharpied. So we're gonna go ahead and cut. This will get easier as you go along and as you lose more of the tin can. And watch your fingers because this can get sharp. Put your excess aside. Now you may want to save your excess tin can as practice for embossing if you are going to emboss a design into your tin can. Again, you don't have to. I'm not going to, but I will show you how to do it on a scrap. So I'm just going around. Cut as well as you can and as straight as you can on those lines that we have already scored. I'm going to get rid of some of this extra tin can here. And I know you can't see very well, but I will show you the finished product in just a second. So we're starting to get to our box shape here. And I'm gonna go and take this outside edge down. And right here. Careful, these corners are going to start to get sharp for you. Again, if you would like to wear a pair of gardening gloves, that might be helpful. I've got one more little chunk to take out. Okay, so as you can see here, I have this funny looking shape that's got a big square, some rectangled sides, some little squares in the corners, and these little tabs. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn that over. You can see those score lines right here. And I'm gonna grab my tape again because I prefer to not have to fight with it trying to fold itself over, and I'm just going to tape my edges down best you can. It doesn't need to be perfect, but we're going to tape those. And I'm just using the tabs to tape down. Okay, so it might not transfer on camera very well, but what you can see here is you can see that there is a score line, there's score lines, and you can see those funny little squares that we've left in the corner. So what we are going to do is we're gonna grab our ballpoint pen again and our straight edge, and we're just going to line up from the outer corner here to our inner corner. And I am going to grab that ballpoint pen and I'm going to give that a bit of a score. Now, do not score this part too hard. On my practice one, I did end up splitting my tin can, and I'm going to go around on all of the four corners, and we're going to score from the top side. And then I'm going to finish that up on this top corner right here. We're just scoring into the corners. We are not going to score into here, just the corners. And as you can see now, we've got score lines going the opposite direction. If you would like to, for extra marks, what you can do is add a little bit of embossing. You can emboss it, right, and keep this color, or if you want to keep it nice and shiny, what you're going to do for the embossing. So let's say that your can, you've completely sanded it and you'd like to put maybe your initials or some pretty designs. So what you're going to do is you're going to flip over your can and work from the inside. This is just a piece of scrap. Okay. You're going to grab your ballpoint pen again, and you're going to start to make just some designs. I'm just going to make, let's say, a squirrel here. And again, don't press too hard. Don't make my mistake and cut through your box. And another swirl here. Okay, so as you can see, there is a little bit of a design, but maybe you want that to show up just a touch better. So we're gonna put that back down. And I have a wooden skewer and a pencil here. You can use whatever tools work the best for you. Let's go with that wooden skewer. And I'm just gonna go and start just to trace back around where I have pushed it up. So what this is gonna do is make the embossing a little bit more obvious for you. Just a little bit sharper. Now, you can put your initials in. Remember, you were embossing from the back side, so if you want your initials readable, you need to write backwards. I'm going to go back, and I'm just going to push a little bit harder here to get a little bit more on the outside. And there you go. So that is what the embossing can look like here. If you're going to emboss, you would like to do this part first before you end up folding everything up. So you can cut it out, but emboss from the inside first and then fold your little box up. Okay, so our next step is going to be folding this box together, which is going to be the tough part. Okay, so I'm going to untape it. And I've got this funny looking shape here that is going to be our box. Okay, so let's bring that up a little bit closer to the camera there for you. See those score lines? So I'm going to pick an edge to start on. It doesn't matter. And I'm just going to use my thumbs here to start to push my creases in the direction that they want to go, starting in that square corner here. Now, what you're going to see, it's going to make this little V shape here, and it's going to go along that scored line. So I'm going to take my fingers, and I'm now going to pinch this section together. It's going to close that corner up a little bit, and you're going to end up with this. Now, I'm going to do that on the other edge of this. So same thing. We're going to push that together with your thumbs. We're going to pinch these ones here. And then I'm just going to take my fingers from the inside, pinch together, and you're going to have it look like this. So what you can do is you can go ahead and take both of these edges and just fold them a little bit flatter. And we still got some sharp edges. Watch for these corners here. Don't cut yourself. And we're going to flip over to the other side, and we're going to do the same thing. So again, push into the box on that score line. Pinch our outer score lines here like this, and pinch it closed. And one last time, we are going to push in, pinch, shut, and close that from the inside. Okay, so now we've got kind of a funny looking wonky box here. That's okay. It's going to be a little bit wonky for the first little bit, and I'm going to push. Ooh, I just split my tin can. That's okay. It happens. I'm going to push that flat, or what we can do is we can fix this by pushing to the outside here. And I'm just going to use that tab to hold it down. So what we're going to do, we have all of our tabs kind of flat. I'm going to take this outside scored edge and just do your best to fold them down all the way around. So. Like that. And I'm gonna work my way slowly. I'm just gonna pre-bend that just a little bit because it's kind of funny. Okay, I'm gonna work my way slowly around my box. That tab doesn't want to fit. Oh, I just completely split my corner. That's okay. Yours will look better than mine because you are taking your time. And I'm going to, again, through that score line here, pinch that down, pinch this down, and if your box did not split like mine did, you will have a completed little box here. Now, give me a second, I'm gonna tape that so I can show you this. Okay, after a quick repair, we've got a base of a box here. You can go around and give a little bit of a pinch. And again, try not to split your sides. I scored a little bit too hard on these corner edges. Try not to do that when you make yours, but I'm just going to use my fingers on the inside here and my fingers on the outside to just sharpen up that bottom edge. Best as I can. There's my taped corner. Sorry about that. Pinch, pinch, pinch all the way around. Okay, now I have a square base to my box. I've got some sides. All my sharp edges are gone. Mine's a little bit wonky, but that's okay. That's all right. So there we go. We've got the base of a trinket box. Now, I will include the measurements for the top. You do the exact same thing. You just make it a little bit bigger, and then you will have a top that will fit nicely right on here. Now, I have 2 boxes, same size. If you make them the same size, you can kind of make them fit, but what it does is it makes them really hard to take apart. I would make one a little bit bigger.